If you have been following the news for the past couple of weeks, you've probably heard these questions. Is this World War III? What does Ukraine want? And why is Russia invading Ukraine? I'm going to help you understand these questions a little more in this video, and I've also challenged a very talented friend of mine to write and produce a full song throughout the process of me explaining this video to you, which will be played at the end, so make sure to watch till the end. Before I actually get to answering these questions for you, please make sure that you scroll down and subscribe to our channel with the notification bell on so that you can stay updated on more such videos. There are a few basics that you need to understand to fully understand why this conflict is happening, which I'm going to take you through now. Watch this map very carefully. In this map, what you see as Ukraine now was part of the Soviet Union until it declared independence in August 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Ever since Putin came to power almost 2 decades ago, he has emphasized on restoring Russia's lost glory, which has brought attention to Kiev, Ukraine's capital. Putin believes that Ukraine is a part of Russia and that Kiev is where Russia was born. You can see Kiev here on this map. Putin is determined to keep a tight grip on the second most populous and powerful Soviet regions. The point of contention between the two nations was and remains Ukraine's desire to go closer to the European Union and free itself from the influence of Russia. This conflict of interest has obviously had its impact. Russia has built up tens and thousands of troops along the Ukrainian border, an act of aggression that could spiral into the largest military conflict on the European soil in decades. And it looks like it is heading that way. As of the last week of February 2022, when this video was shot, Russian forces have closed in on Ukraine's capital in a military operation that has rocked stock markets and potentially sowed the seeds for a world war. But let us track back and see what all has been happening. In February and March 2014, Russia invaded and subsequently annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. In the same year, as people protested in the streets in favor of partnering with the EU, Putin sent in troops to annex Crimea. It marked the first time since World War II that a European state annexed the territory of another. Ukraine has cited this as a reason for alarm. Essentially, this conflict is about the future of Ukraine. But Ukraine is also a larger stage for Russia to reassert its dominance on Europe and the rest of the world, and for Putin to cement his legacy. These are no small things for Putin, which is why he has decided to now attack Ukraine, an act that could potentially lead to thousands and thousands of civilian deaths, a European refugee crisis, and a response from Western allies that include tough sanctions affecting the global economy. This brings us to an important question, which is, what does Ukraine want? But before I go ahead answering that question, let's check back with our friend Abhishek and see how he's doing. Now coming back to the topic. Ukraine basically wants to be a part of NATO. It openly said that it will apply for EU membership in 2024. But before being considered for NATO membership, it needs to phase out corruption and internal division prevalent in the region. The crisis in Ukraine is, in many ways, a conflict about the former Soviet Republic's future direction. Should it look westward towards the EU or maintain close ties with Russia? So as I said, it really is about a membership of NATO. But what exactly is NATO? NATO is a military alliance established in 1949 by the United States, Canada, France, the United Kingdom, and 8 other European countries. 30 nations are now part of the organization. NATO is unique from the UN because NATO's key traditional principle is collective defense. This means that an attack on one member of NATO is an attack on all members of NATO. But why does Putin care about Ukraine's NATO membership? Well, if Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, that would significantly increase its international military backing and allow for NATO's military action within Ukraine. This guarantee of military might would act as a firm discouragement to Russian aggression. Ukraine has been conducting joint military drills with US and NATO troops, which Putin is definitely not pleased with. Russia sees the former parts of the Soviet Union as its territory, especially Ukraine and Belarus. In Putin's mind, the West only understands the language of force, so an invasion of Ukraine is a tempting way for him to settle the issue. And by the looks of it, the invasion is clearly his plan A. Now the question comes, will US involve itself in the Russia-Ukraine conflict? US President Joe Biden on January 19, 2022 said that he thinks Russia will invade Ukraine and warned Russian President Vladimir Putin that he will regret doing it. Is that a sign that America is worried? Well, we'll leave that up to your interpretation. But as of now, Joe Biden has stated that US troops will not be getting involved in the conflict, but will fight to protect the NATO regions. Military support for Ukraine and political and economic sanctions are ways the US can make clear to Moscow that there will be consequences for its encroachment on an independent territory. The risk, otherwise, is that Russia might undertake other military and political actions that would further threaten European security and stability, something the US wants to avoid. Now that Russia has started invading Ukraine, Biden is not shying away. He has announced a number of sanctions against Russia, accusing Vladimir Putin of choosing this war. But I'm sure there's another battle that our very talented friend is fighting to write and compose a full song throughout the process of me recording this video. Let's check back on him. Coming back to the topic, now that Russia has started its process of invading Ukraine, does this mean there is a new world war? Well, that completely depends on what Putin's endgame is. In a televised address, Russian President Vladimir Putin said his move to launch a military operation in Ukraine came in response to threats emanating from the neighboring countries. Soon after the address, explosions were heard in cities across Ukraine caused by Russian missile strikes. Soon after, troops poured in over the northeastern border and from the east and the south. Before the invasion began, Ukraine had already declared a state of emergency and had asked its citizens to leave Russia due to the growing threat of war. But now that the strikes have begun, Ukraine is signaling a cry for help. As of now, Kiev has been rocked by several explosions. Ukraine in response has shot down Russian aircrafts over the capital city and is safeguarding the international airport on the outskirts. Coming to the most important question, does India have anything to worry about? It is believed that the Biden administration reached out to the Indian administration asking for support for the Ukraine crisis. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also gave out a strong message against the Russian aggression. However, chaos and conflict in Europe will not directly affect Indians. But an economic cold war between Russia and the West will most certainly affect the global economy, which has consequences for all of us. So, what's next? US estimates predict that a full-blown invasion could leave as many as 50,000 civilians dead or wounded. The costs to Russia of attacking Ukraine would significantly outweigh the benefits. Even if the aggression subsides, Putin might renew fighting between the Ukrainian army and the Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine. And he would do this to increase Russia's sphere of influence so that the Western powers may negotiate their sanctions. The plan, the officials and analysts believe, could be to force Ukrainian troops to fight on multiple fronts, seeking not so much territory but rather a capitalization of Kiev and its Western back that results in the security guarantees Putin wants. And now coming to the most awaited part of the video, the song. But before we go ahead with that, please make sure that you share this video with anyone that needs to know this information, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.
A grim new chapter awaits for those who fear the lives of love disappear. Is this the end? When will it ever end? We struck oil today, my friends. The power and greed to make things right. The freedom or violence, this is the night. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Tonight's the night we fight the good fight. Get over here! Print some more and print some more. It's all about the power and not your lava. A grim new chapter awaits for those who seek pleasure and pain. Don't lose faith. Look up to the sky. See that there's no lines. There's always high in the night. Caught in a web, refused by the world. Inhale, exhale, this is all we will see. Fight! Pin drop violence. Death!
And that's it for now. Stay barely opinionated.